Volume Ma'ar Shariah Machad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayim Ma'imya Oh Harayim Ma'yan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahu Shashab Shemayim Warataza La Inathan Lamawat Regalia Yela Inawam Shashramarka Hana La Yinathan Yinawam Wala Yashan Shashramar Yashirala Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia Ayub Yad Yim Yad Yawamam Hashamash La Hakaya Wayarak La Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makau Ra Yashama Napasha Yahweh Yashama Hawalakim Wabawaya My Thad Will I Willam Basham Yahweh Shai for what a man.
121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil, shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forevermore.
Amen. Shema Yasharel, Hero Israel. Shema Yasharel, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharel, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharel, Yahweh, Elohim, Yahweh, Echad.
Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abinawe Shabbat Shemayim Kodash Hayye Shanke Yahweh Malakwavka Taba'ai Ratazawanka Hayye Aisha Baratazaka Bashemayim Nathan Lacham Yawam Sad Wasalaknawa Kabawat Nawa Kasalak Nawa Kabawat Yanawa Wala Abiyarnawa O Nasayawan Abba Hawashinawa Murai Kaya Laka Hamalakwa Wa Allah Wa Thaparat Wa Walam Man.
Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Amen. Aishara Matazawab, the Ten Commandments. La'ab, Yahayab, Lakab, Alahayim, Akharim, Alpanyat, La'ab, Thaishab, Lakab, Pasol, Wala'ab, Thaibadam, La'ab, Talakwakaf, Shamwab, Yahawab, Alahayakab, Lashawab, Zakab, Af, Hayawam, Hashabath, Lakodashwab, Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa Amaka, La'ab, Thiratazak, La'ab, Thana'ab, La'ab, Thaganab, La'ab, Thainad, Shakur, La'ab, Thakhamad, Kal, Asherah, Lara'ayaka, Amen.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bind thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy power, am with jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children into the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is in thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ass, nor his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's.
Amen. Yeshabwa, be seated. Barakatah Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Fanana, Parya, Gapan, Tuara, Aman. La Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Yasherah. Magwa, Panuel Jerusalem, standing face Jerusalem. Barakatah Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Nabiyah, Wanawa'ai, Al-Yawan, Malak, Shashamayim, Warataza, Wakadabarim, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Rawanawa, Habnawa, Hapalat, Yawa Aitaza, Yahawashai, Zakarnawa, Yahawa, Bartazawan, Ainka, Yashala, Zarnawa, Bana, Wasap, Yashala, Oh, Nanawa, Yam Yan, Aifa, Kayawamyam, Makudam, Babakusha, Shalak, Mike Allah, Watazwadak, Allahayam, La Maganawa, Rapharnawa, Washamab, Alnawa, Bakwa, Shalak, Haroka, Shao, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabiam, Kakamath, Abawana, Wada Aif, Shao, the Barka, Basham, Yahweh Shai, the Wada, Thum Yad, Waiwalam, Man. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember Yahweh favorably your people Israel, Help us build and gather Israel. Most High, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherab, Nathan Lanawa, Hatawarat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherab, Nathan Lanawa, Awar, Lara Awat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherab, Nathan Lanawa, Quran, Hayo, Lakurab, Ha'aim, Shabra. You see that? All right, so Shalom Yasharal. Shalom, everybody here. Shalom, everybody watching on live stream, and shalom, everyone listening on teleconference. Welcome to Hayah Shalakanas, so the Congregation of Israel, where we teach the so-called descendants of slaves as well as so-called indigenous peoples found mainly in North Central South America and the Caribbean, make up the southern and northern kingdoms of the 12 tribes of Israel, once lost, now found. And that we fall into a lower state politically, economically, even religiously, because we broke the laws of God found in the Bible given to us by Moses. And that we come out of this lower state that we fall into by turning back to the commandments we broke by following Jesus Christ as our example, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. The way that we do that is by keeping the first of the month holy, or the new moon. And this new moon is also the beginning of the year as well, or the beginning of the new year according to our calendar, the Hebrew calendar, which we use the moon to tell the time of month as opposed to the sun, which is what they do with the Gregorian calendar that most people use, at least here in the West. So this is actually new moon, but it's also the first new moon of the first of the year. And it's another question you can throw back at the so-called Jews, right, that Christ ridicules in scriptures like Revelations 2 and 9, as well as Revelations 3 and 9. You can ask them, why you guys call what we call the memorial blowing of the trumpets, which is the 7th month from the first day. Why do you guys call that Rosh Hashanah? Because Rosh Hashanah is just the English rendering of what's supposed to be said in the ancient Hebrew, which is Rosh Hashanah. Usually means the first or the head of the year, right? Technically, it's around this time. And they try to say that it's the beginning of the harvest, but even that's not true, because even now we have different things that are growing. You got to be specific. Right? As you read the scriptures during the time of year that we're in, we know that it's the barley harvest, which we go into around this time, since we know we're 2 weeks away from keeping the Passover, which is the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You read the scriptures, you find that this is the time of year that barley is grown. So one thing amongst many you can push back when it comes to the so-called Jews claiming to be us when they really aren't. But it's a new moon nonetheless. It's just the first new moon of the year. So you can just write down for your notes that today, according to the Gregorian calendar, is March 23rd, 2020. And of course, according to our calendar, it would be the first month and the first day. And my name is Nabi Azar Babal. So let's go to Numbers chapter 10, verse 10. So Numbers chapter 10 and verse 10. And if you could read that, Kahan Baba Kushan, and I'll give the sense. I'd appreciate it.
Numbers chapter 10, verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness, in your solemn days, and in the beginning of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your God. I am the Lord your power.
Right. So it tells you here in our law, back in Numbers 10 and 10, we were coming out in the wilderness. Our days of gladness, our solemn days, and the beginning of our months, which is the time that we're in right now, beginning of our months. It says we were to blow over the trumpets over our burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of our peace offerings. Right? Because in the law, it goes into how we did those when you read the first chapters of Leviticus. So that's why when we have our services, we always sound off with shofar, or as they say, shofar, but really in the ancient Hebrew, it's shofar. That's how you say a ram's horn, which is a type of trumpet. But now we don't do the burnt offerings and peace offerings now because we go through Christ, who he himself was the ultimate sacrifice. Now, if we do sin or transgress, we go through him through grace. The idea, of course, is once we learn sin to not do it, to turn away from it. But since we still fall short, we still can trust in what? That we might achieve salvation by following his example more and more as the days go on, as we get closer and closer to the end. So let's get a popular example as we typically read of our forefathers keeping this. 1 Samuel chapter 20. We'll start at verse 5 and then we'll jump down. You can read that, Baba Kushab, once you have it.
1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 5. And David said unto Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to seek with the king at meat. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field until the third day at even.
Right. So a couple millennia back, this is around 1000 BC, you had Saul, who was king, and you had his son Jonathan, as well as David, who was one of his servants who the Lord highly favored. And at this point, favor begins to fall upon David and away from Saul due to events that took place in previous chapters. But now David knows that Saul seeks his life without a cause, so he's asking his son Jonathan, who him and Jonathan are very close, he's saying that what? Tomorrow is the new moon. So there was a new moon around that time when he was talking to him. But he says, I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. And he knew that what? It was typical that what? We would sit down together and keep the feast, right? David now being called out of his father's house to be a part of Saul's household. Because you read, he was set up within Saul's armor to be his armor bearer at this point. But he tells him, let me go that I might hide myself in the field until the third day at evening. Right? So he's asking if he can go into the field and hide. Because he knows if he shows up, that Saul's going to try to come after him because Saul's being tormented by an evil spirit that wrongfully seeks to cause harm to David without a cause. So let's jump down to verse 24 when this actually happens.
24. So David hid himself in the field. When the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat, and the king sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon the seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty.
Right, so they're all sitting there, and I see on the chat, brother asked, what was that scripture? We did Numbers 10 and 10, Numbers chapter 10 and verse 10. Now we're in 1 Samuel chapter 20. We read 5, now we just read 24. And we're going to go down to verse 27.
In verse 26, nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean.
Right, so David didn't show up that first day of the feast. It was only a one-day feast. But Saul thought he must be unclean. That's why he's not here. His laws are going to what would make a man or a woman unclean. You can't come together for a holy convocation. You would stay behind until the days of your uncleanness were fulfilled, and you wash with water or did whatever you needed to do to be clean after a certain period of time, whether it was 1 day or 7 days or however long. So that's why Saul is thinking, well, that must be the reason why he's not here, right? But we know the reason why because he already discussed it with Jonathan. Read on.
28. Jonathan answered Saul,
No. Did you read 27?
27. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to me, neither yesterday nor today?
Right, so good question here, right? But what this verse also shows us too is that what? The new moon represents the beginning of the month, like we read Numbers 10 and 10. So precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, right? Like it says in Isaiah 28 and 10. So here we can use this verse to show that the new moon must be the beginning of the month because it says on the morrow, which was the second day. So, the day after the new moon was considered the second day of the month. And now he asked Jonathan, his son, 2 days have gone by and he hasn't sitting down and eating with us because he would eat with us even if it wasn't a holy day. 2 days have gone by and he's still not here. What's going on? And you read on, the plot thickens, obviously. But just an example of us keeping the new moon and keeping it holy. And to show that we're going to be keeping this, and that we should be keeping it even now to this day, right? With the grace allotted us through Christ. Let's check out this scripture that actually is a prophecy that hasn't even come to pass yet. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 66. Isaiah chapter 66. Let's read verse 23. You can read that too, Bob Shah.
Isaiah chapter 66, verse 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord.
Right. So it says, it shall come to pass, meaning in the future time. This is when Isaiah is talking. But now, based on what's said in this prophecy, we know that this is still something that hasn't happened yet. The Bible is not chronological as far as the prophecy goes. Even though the books are written throughout history, the events are not in chronological order per se. Right? There's things that happen in the beginning going in Revelation. There's things that are going to happen in the end found in Genesis. Right? Depending on how you read it, as long as the Holy Spirit is your guide to go back and forth and to understand what you read. So it says, one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me. There's going to come a time in the future when all flesh shall come and worship before the Most High in Christ. Right? So that's us. That's the other nations. So everything's going to be in that righteous order in that time. But you're showing you that this new moon is not something that got phased out. Christ died on the cross. No, it's still important. It's going to have relevance even in the future. And the scripture I like to always go to show that even in the time of the New Testament, right, which we're in now, because I know that question's come up a couple different times in the classes that we have, as far as, what covenant are we under, and what testament are we under, right? Because the covenant and the testament are different things, right? Right? The testament being like a will versus the covenant being like a contract, right? The testament being like, okay, you have a last will and testament where you have a policy written up, say, for yourself to give whatever you may possess to your next of kin or your family or people that are in your company or however you want to set it up. It doesn't go into effect until you die, right? And whatever you had described in that testament gets carried out. So we have that in a righteous sense when it comes to the righteous law, as far as what the Old Testament being the blood of animals, sheep, goats, bulls, turtle doves, right? We will offer that for consecration, for expiation of sins, or if we committed a sin by accident. We could do a sin offering, right? And offer that blood, and that will be the go-between. That was what the Old Testament literally is. Usually when you say Old Testament, people think you're talking about Genesis to Malachi. Those are just the law, the books that are written before, right? The law, the prophets, the Psalms. But the literally Old Testament is talking about that, whereas the New Testament is talking about Christ being an ultimate sacrifice, like we talked about earlier, being put up on the cross, his blood now serving, which represents his life, serving as that go-between between us and the Most High anytime we transgress. Whereas the blood of animals was the Old Testament before. So yes, we're under the New Testament, but we're still under the Old Covenant, right? Which you read in Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. It tells us, Israel, the 12 tribes, what would happen if we either kept or broke God's laws. But the New Covenant, when you read the scriptures dealing with the New Covenant, and it's in two places, it's in the Old Testament and in the New Testament as far as what the New Covenant is, that is still not in effect. That still hasn't come to pass yet. Let's read this verse in Colossians first, and then I'll get that scripture. We'll get those scriptures to cover that, and then we'll continue on. But let's go to Colossians chapter 2. So remember, that's your answer. We're under the New Testament, but we're under the Old Covenant. When we read what the New Covenant is, you'll be able to make it very plain for the person that you're trying to edify if they have a question. The hope is that they have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand what it is that you're showing them. All in all, we must give the warning. So this is Colossians chapter 2. Colossians chapter 2. Verses 16 and also verse 17. 17 will echo what we read in Isaiah 66. So you can call and read that, Baba Prashad.
That's in chapter 2 and 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath day.
Right. So the scripture here, Paul's writing to the brothers and sisters that are in Colossae, telling them what? Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, right? Meaning what you eat and how much of it that you eat, right? As far as things that are lawful to eat, and as far as not being a glutton, not overindulging. Same thing for drink. What things are lawful to drink, and those things that are lawful to drink, that you're not overindulging in that either. It says, or in respect of an holy day. So no one should be judging you saying, hey, don't you know today is the new moon? Don't you know today is the Passover? Don't you know today is the first fruit, et cetera, et cetera? No. And it says, or of the new moon, so it mentions the new moon specifically. Then it says, or of the Sabbath days, which we teach each week. So you see there, we're still to be keeping those days. No one should be judging you saying that you shouldn't do those. I'm sorry that you should be doing those and you're not, because it was a slip. But that's usually what you'll hear from people that are in the world, oftentimes that deal with the so-called Christianity. They'll use this and flip it and say, see, no one should be telling you that you should be doing these things because we don't have to do those things anymore. It's actually saying the exact opposite. How do we know? Because verse 17 is going to go right along with what we just read in Isaiah 66 and 23. So read verse 17 now.
17, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ.
Right, so we're Christ's body, but these things are a shadow of things to come. See? That's what we read in Isaiah 66 and 23. One new moon to another, one Sabbath to another. All flesh shall come and worship before him. But before we get there, before we get into the times of the new covenant, right? It's only going to be those of us who have been called into this truth that are going to do this, right? And that's what we should be doing, right? Wherever we may be scattered at in these last days. Now, let's touch on that covenant real quick. Move on. But it's in two different places. Let's get it, since we're in the New Testament, let's just turn to it here in the New Testament and then get the verse where the New Testament verse actually comes from. So go to Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8. Let's start from verse 8. You can call it and read it once you have it.
Hebrews chapter 8 and 8. For fighting for with them, he said, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Right. The Most High, you read above, finding fault with them, us as a people. He said, behold, the days come, I will make a new covenant. See? A new covenant. It says, with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. More proof to show you that what? The old and new covenants are for the children of Israel. It says house of Israel and house of Judah because you go into the history. The house of Israel was the northern kingdom. The house of Judah was the southern kingdom. Right? Two sides of the same coin, right? Two halves of the same staff to be brought together, like in that vision that Ezekiel had, right? When you read in Ezekiel 37. So he's going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So you might say, okay, we see it's with the children of Israel specifically, not anybody that believes, as they teach in so-called Christian church. But there may come a gainsay to say, oh, that happened already. Let's read on in verse 9.
Verse 9. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I am not, saith the Lord.
Right. So that's that first covenant, right? That we're still dealing with, that majority of our people are in transgression of. Like I referenced before, Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, where it says, if you keep these commandments, I'll bless you and raise you on high. But if you break these commandments, I'll curse you and bring you down low, in all different ways that he would do it, right? Some of the things that we've been saying since we've been here in this last captivity in Babylon the Great, called America, right? So these curses are come upon us as part of that covenant. So we're still under that. But now let's see what's going to happen in this new covenant. Read on in verse 10.
For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their heart, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people.
See that? So this is a very important key to this new covenant to show us that this is still something that hasn't happened yet. Right? It says, I will put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts, which the heart and the mind are the same. You read the Hebrew, right? It's the word lab. It says, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. So under this new covenant, the Most High is going to put it in us to where we'll automatically know and do the commandments. Right? We're not there right now. Verse 11 is going to show us where we're currently at, but we're on the way to getting there, to the new covenant. As we get days and days closer to Christ coming back, as more and more prophecies are coming to pass. Read verse 11.
And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest.
Right? So that's the time that we're in right now. Right? Every man teaching every man his neighbor, every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. Right? That's what we're doing right now. Whether it be through posters, whether it be through artwork, whether it be through other types of artistry like music, whether it be through ministry, charity. We do, like we were talking about last Friday, as far as different gifts, right, that have been imparted unto us. That's the time that we're in right now. But when this new covenant is enacted, we're all going to know the Lord. It's not going to be a mystery. It's not going to be stopping brothers and sisters on the street, ask them what their nationality is, and say it's 10 of them, and you get 21 different answers, right? You say, well, there's only 10 people. How do you get 21 different answers? Because all of them got at least 2 answers. One of them probably got 3, right? And that's being generous. So that's where we're at now, because we're still confused. Remember, part of the curse was what? He will smite us with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. So when we were here before, through our pre-generation with our ancestors, when we knew better, we didn't do better. So part of that curse would be when the third or fourth generation would come around, they will be born into misfortune, right? Oftentimes involving captivity of one type or another under some nation. That's not us. Like now, we're in captivity under a different nation as a people. As we begin to wake up, like the prophecy says, we're now beginning to stand up on our feet, and the exceeding great army is being built. All the different branches of Christ that are out there being woken up to this truth, that are of these 12 tribes of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So in that day, it says, once again, you all shall know me, referring to the Most High, from the least to the greatest. What did Christ say? In that day, right, the least to the greatest, we're all going to be knowing who the Most High is, knowing who Christ is. The key, though, is to what? Be part of that greatest. You want to go in as the 1/3. You don't want to be part of the 2/3. We all have a role to play. Remember what Christ said? Whosoever shall teach to break one of these least commandments, he shall be called the least in the kingdom. Whosoever shall do and teach them shall be considered or called great in the kingdom. So we're all going to be there. It's all about how you go in. You want to go in as the 1/3, those that repented during these times and were a righteous example, even against all the shadow of death that's out there in different forms? Or do you want to be one of the hard-headed that didn't want to listen, had to get destroyed with a lot of the nations when the Third World War happens, and then come back through those children that the 1/3 had? Let's try and be part of that first group, that former group, as opposed to the latter. All in all, like it says here, we shall all know him. Read 12, and then we'll get to where this comes from in Jeremiah.
8 and 12. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins and their iniquity. Will I remember no more.
So in the kingdom going forward, we'll get a huge pass for all the horrible things we've done over generations, right? Follow righteousness, then do wickedness for a time. Then have somebody stand up, become a judge or a savior, follow righteousness for a little bit. Once he or she dies, then we go back to wickedness again. Another savior pops up, right? You go throughout our history, that's pretty much what it's been up until Christ. And then he had his disciples. They did a good work. They fell away. But now we're coming back over these last couple of decades. We just pick up where those disciples left off. Like I always make the joke, I say, since the 70s up until now, especially, we prophesied in sackcloth somewhat during the times of slavery up until the 70s, but from the 70s up until now, the truth in its full form has been coming out as per the prophecy, right? So us being a part of that prophecy, like we said, like the scriptures say, we're now beginning to stand up, right? But not just physically stand up, because we already do that, but spiritually stand up, because we've been spiritually dead as a people for quite some time. But now we're coming out teaching who we are and what we're supposed to be doing in full form. Like I said, over these last couple of decades leading up till now. It's been about 5 decades at this point since we're in the year 2020. So where's this come from? This is quoted from Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah chapter 31. We'll read through this swiftly because it pretty much says the same thing. But once again, a future prophecy still hasn't happened yet, as we just showed. Because there will be no need for us or any camp to teach. Keep the new moon holy. Keep the Sabbath holy. Don't eat pork, shrimp, lobster, or crabs. Right? Christ only came for Israel. Right? This is what sin is. Get the verse for sin. We wouldn't have to do that if we were under the new covenant. So Jeremiah chapter 31. And we'll start from 31 and we'll read down to 34. So you can call and read it, Baba for sure.
Jeremiah chapter 31. And verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Right, just like what we read in Hebrews 8. Read on.
Not according to the covenant Jeremiah 31 and verse 32. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. Verse 33, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward part and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more.
Right. So, same thing we were reading before.
So, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
One thing that I noticed in that verse, Mosai said, I was an husband to them. And if he was an husband to them, then what happened? We cheat on the Mosai.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So pretty much we commit adultery.
Mm-hmm.
And even though some of us, we keep the law, we keep the feast days, we keep the Sabbath days, that doesn't always mean that we're worshiping the Most High. Because worshiping the Most High is easy and it's difficult at the same time. So that's one thing that we got to keep in mind. We could be keeping the laws, coming to the service, doing the service, but we really not worshiping the Most High. So what did the Most High say? Take your bland ovation and your service and things away from me. But we were keeping the feast days. So why would the Most High say we keeping the feast days? Because it's not just coming and keeping those laws and coming and keep the feast days, but it's how do we do it? How do we worship the Most High? That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
The key is how we do it. Are we really doing it for the Most High? Or are we really doing just, okay, I did my part. At least I come to at least I keep the Sabbath. Hey, I did my part. If we do it that way with that mindset, I can go back and do whatever I got to do. At least I get that out the way. That's not keeping the Most High service. That's not worshiping the Most High. So worshiping the Most High is something that we got to really consider. And also, idolatry and idolatry is something that we may think we not commit adultery or we not doing idolatry because we're not bowing down to an idol, right? But the key is it's more intricate than that. Anything can be an idol. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out. Anything can be. He that love father and mother more than me is not worthy than me. It's not worthy of me. So if you love your father, your mother, your son, your daughter more than the Most High, that's idol worship. If you love your cars, your house more than the Most High, that's idol worshiping. But we have not been trained our mind to think that way. So anything that is worthy more than the Most High, that's idol worshiping.
It's actually two things.
Mm-hmm.
He said one thing. That's actually two things.
Right. And the thing about it is that is one thing that the Most High hates. Idols. The Most High is jealous when we worship idols. And the Most High is not jealous because of your car, because of your house, because of your look, because of your clothes. He gives you that anyway. But he never gives you idols.
You're just making that point, or do you have some verses? Or
Yeah, I wanted to pull Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. And it says,
one second.
It says, Ecclesiastes 7 and 8, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So I pull the scripture that will show that even though we're keeping the laws and the Most High, we got to check out how we doing it and not making just keeping the high holy days, keeping the Sabbath, the end of everything. That's not the end. This is a process, right, to get us to the kingdom, right? And we got to do it as we doing it the way we're supposed to do it for the Most High, but don't make it the end thing. It is a process to get there. So that's why the Most High said also, when I give you the new moon, think not to worship them. Right? Think not to worship them or look up the sky and worship those things that I created, even though we're keeping the new moon. So it's not about worshiping the new moon. It's the process. And we always, as a nation, have that problem. Right? We focus on what the Most High tell us to do instead of who we doing it to and to do it.
There's a couple verses that we could go into for that, but I'll just read one. Just to iterate that point, and it's so ironic that it's in the quote unquote Old Testament, right? Because we'll say, we didn't learn this until Christ. Christ brought it to the forefront, but it was always there. It just had to be drawn. For the forefathers that came before that understood, they wrote these things down, right? As far as, like you said, not just keeping the law, but we know the tree of life wouldn't be complete, it wouldn't be fully mature without the fruits on that tree, right? Just the image you could use for what Kahan is talking about, think of just the law itself as like the branches and the leaves on the tree. But now the fruit of the Spirit, which go into, like you're talking about, having the right attitude when keeping the law, think of those as like the fruits that would actually grow on the tree that you could pick off and eat. Right? The tree comes to full maturation that does grow fruit, right? That's what you grew it for to begin with, right? That's why the fruit of the Spirit are so important, because if you don't have those, it's like you're not even getting the lesson that the law was supposed to teach you. You're not learning the importance of, say, the example of the fruit of faith, or the fruit of patience, or the fruit of meekness, or the fruit of experience, or the fruit of peace, the fruit of joy, etc., right? Those are the things we're supposed to be developing as we keep the laws, as we put those into practice. Right? These are things that the law is supposed to teach us, as opposed to, like you're talking about, just keeping the law just as, just going through the motion, because, God said so. I don't want anything bad to happen to me. I'm just going through the motions. Right? That's being an upright spirit, right? Doing the right thing out of fear of punishment. That's like basic. Right? That's young children. Start there. When maturity comes in, you want to be. This is the verse I'm going to read. You want to be of a broken and contrite spirit, not an upright spirit. Which a contrite spirit is someone who does the right thing out of a sense of duty. Because it's the right thing to do, because they want to see their brother and sister do well, right? They're not looking for a reward, right? They're not doing it, like I said, just because somebody said, because they've internalized and realized this is a good thing, right? It's a help. This is a positive thing to do, a righteous thing to do, right? For a person that's of that kind of spirit, they are now mature. They are more spiritually developed. This is in the Old Testament. I'm about to read it. Psalms 51, I'll start from 15, I'll read down to 17. Psalms 51, in verse 15, and it reads, O Lord, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise. Right? So we can always praise the Most High with our lips, right? Then he says, verse 16, desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou desirest not in burnt offering. So make sure we don't read this. Oh, wait, what's going on here? He's saying that we're not supposed to do the burnt offering at all, right? That's not what he's saying. What he's going at is it's deeper than that. Yeah, we do that, but it's not just about that alone. Right? Right? It's not just about doing the burnt offering just to do it. Verse 17 clarifies. He says, the sacrifices of God or power are of a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite spirit, O God or O power, thou wilt not despise. I already went into what it meant to be a contrite spirit, right? So that's the Most High is looking for. He's looking for you doing the sacrifice, but doing it with the right attitude, right? With the right spirit, not just, dragging your feet or doing it, resistance, like, why did you do this? Or doing it without really understanding, the wisdom behind what you're doing. So that's what he's saying here.
And also, just as there's a help to worship the Most High, some pointers on how to worship the Most High. Because the best way to worship anything or to worship the Most High is to know about the Most High. So how to know about the Most High is by reading the word of the Most High. Because the word of the Most High is the Most High's mind on paper. Right? It's the Most High's mind on paper. So if we wait until class time, right, to read about the Most High, that means we're just waiting for class time. We're not really building and try to know the Most High, try to spend time. So that's the way you spend time around the Most High. Spend some time reading with interest of trying to find out about the Most High, how the Most High think. Right? And the best way to do it is to read the scriptures, read the Bible. Read about the Most High, like I said, is the Most High's mind on paper. So the more we read about the Most High, the way you want to find out the intent, why the Most High say something, the more we read, the more we find out. So that's why it's important to read about the Bible, but not just wait on class time or service time to read the scriptures.
Yeah. You can read this as a link to Psalms 51. This is Isaiah chapter 57. Isaiah chapter 57. In verse 15. So Isaiah 57 and 15, it reads, for thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in a high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit. So this person, the Most High who's on high, he says he's with those that are what? As far as on this plane, those that are down low on the earth, right? In a lowly place, right? Humble before him, humble before his will. A contrite and humble spirit to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones, right? Because, it's, like you said, it's not easy being humble in a world like this. Right? You're going to be tempted, right? Whether it be false doctrines, whether it be different types of afflictions, different types of lusts, you're going to be tempted. It says, for I will not contend forever, neither will I be always wroth. Like we just read about the new covenant, right? For the spirit should fail before me in the souls which I have made. The Most High, he made it all anyway. It's all his, including us. It says, for the iniquity of his covetousness was I wroth and smote him. It's important too. It also deals with what you said earlier about idolatry and the different things that it can be, or the things that can lead to idolatry. There's going to be another verse we can get to connect with this. It says from the top again, for the iniquity of his covetousness was I wroth and smote him. I hid me and was wroth, and he went on frowardly in the way of his heart. He followed his own way instead of doing the Most High's way. It says, I have seen his ways and will heal him. I will lead him also and restore comforts unto him and to his mourners. I create the fruit of the lips. Peace, peace to him that is far off and to him that is near, saith Yahweh. And I will heal him. This is what we're supposed to be eating spiritually, the tree of life. It tells us in both places, in the two different prophecies, one Ezekiel had, another I think had, where it talks about the tree of life bearing fruit, each one in its seasons. And each one, and that those fruit were for, and for the leaves of that tree were for what? Balm and for healing. I think in Ezekiel says balm, and then John it says healing, but it's pretty much the same image, it's the same vision, right? That these prophets are having who live, years apart, but just seeing the same vision from the Most High. It says in verse 20, but the wicked are like the troubled sea when it cannot rest, whose waters carry mire and dirt. So likens the wicked unto a troubled sea that just brings up mire and dirt when the waters are against the shore. Then it says in 21, there is no peace, saith my power, to the wicked. Which, we could definitely delve into that more, but true peace can only be attained through righteousness. That's how you have peace in and out, as far as not only your physical body, but your spiritual body, right? What the Most High made you. So I stopped in 21, and let me just link this with one more verse. Link this with Colossians to bring it together. Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 5. So Colossians 3 and 5, it reads, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth. Right? So the mortify means like to make dead. Right? What's going into here is the fruit of temperance, right? Having self-control. You wield your body, your body shouldn't wield you, right? You should use your body, you shouldn't abuse your body, right? You use the things in the flesh, you shouldn't abuse the things in the flesh. It says, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, then it says, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, right? These are all just different examples of sinful behavior, right? And the things that lead to it, as far as things that you may desire that are not righteous. Evil concupiscence, but then check out the last part. And covetousness, which is idolatry. So just reading at a glance, you might say, oh, okay, but when you really consider it, it's pretty interesting. Just think about it. We just did the 10 Commandments, right? When we did the prayers, right? We always do the 10 Commandments, right? As part of our prayers. But look at what Paul is writing here in the Spirit. He's connecting the first commandment, right, to the 10th commandment, showing you how the law is all connected. They're different laws, but they're all related. You can relate them somehow, some way, right? When you covet after, like you said, something that you don't have, right? Or maybe you have something that you are afraid to lose, it's easy for you to what? Make that thing, or that person even, into an idol, right? Whether it be family, friends, associates, possessions, etc. See the connection he's making here between those two in the scriptures.
Another scripture you can make with that is 1 Corinthians 10:23. 1 Corinthians 10:23 reads, all things are lawful for me, But all things are not expedient.
Mm-hmm.
All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. So pretty much, to sums it up, always use things for their intended purposes. Nothing more, nothing less. And never yield yourself to anything. Nothing should take control of you to the point where you lost your mind and you start to consider that thing and it becomes more worthy than the Most High. Then it becomes an idol. That's why the Most High said worthy. Anyone love father and mother more than is not worthy than me. So it's about worth, it's about value. If there's anything that we put more value on other than more than the Most High, that's idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, if we're not careful, if we're not, and the Most High warn us of that. If you don't mind, I'll put one more scripture on that. John, read that. 1 John 5 and 21. 1 John 5 and verse 21. And it's we, little children, keep yourselves from idols. Amen. So it's something that we always gotta be on the guard. At all the time, every minute of the day. Gotta be on guard to see how much credence or how much value we putting on this or that. It said keep yourself from idol because it's something that just creeps up. You don't even know it. You're not even paying attention. You don't even notice, and it's creeping up. So always got to be on the guard. And it can happen to anybody. That's why worshiping the Most High is key. And we might think we know we're worshiping the Most High, but we're not really worshiping the Most High the way we would want to worship the Most High.
Come. To go with 1 Corinthians 10 and 23, you can, because it's all connected. Ecclesiasticus 37. Ecclesiasticus 37, verses 27 and 28. Ecclesiasticus 37, verses 27 and 28, which echoes 1 Corinthians 10 and 23. And it reads, my son, prove thy soul in thy life, and seek what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. So find out what things are evil for your own soul, and keep yourself from it, right? Wean yourself from that kind of thing. Then it says in 28, for all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything. You can write these verses down too. It's back to the new moon, also the new year. There's a couple of different things that happen in the beginning of the year that are kind of interesting. One thing, it's kind of one of those things that's said, unless you're looking for it, may not really jump out at you. But when we first had the tabernacle, scriptures tell us that when they started putting it together, it was the beginning of the year as far as talking to all the people, getting all the materials needed to build the tabernacle of the covenant that we were carrying around with us. This is in Exodus chapter 40. It's pretty much a year in preparation, right? So Exodus chapter 40 and verse 2, you can read the whole chapter. Definitely good to read. I'm just going to read verse 2 and then jump down to verse 17. Because there's a lot of things that went into the tabernacle, all different parts of it, right? There's the outer court, the inner court, tabernacle of the altar burnt offering, stuff inside the holy place, right? Like the candlestick, altar of incense, table for the showbread, and of course, the holiest of holies, which had the Ark of the Covenant in there, right? They had to get all the different materials needed to build all the things that Moses was shown in the mount. And they started this off in the beginning of the year, of the Hebrew year, which starts like we're in now, the season of the spring, not the dead of winter, like the Gregorian calendar. So this is Exodus chapter 40 and verse 2. It says, on the first day of the first month, thou shalt set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. As it goes into, as you read down, it goes into all different things they should have to set it up. You jump down to verse 17, it says, it came to pass in the first month, in the second year, on the first month, that the tabernacle was reared up. And it goes into all different pieces that they had and how they assembled them together. Right? So they were a year in getting all the raw materials needed, and building all different things that were needed after we left out of Egypt around this time. It says that they began actually setting stuff up in the second year, in the beginning of the year as well. But a year later, but first month, first day of the month.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that. And we always sometimes, it's always good to learn our history and use our history to move forward. Only use that history as reference point. But as of today, as the year passed, it's a way for us to reevaluate and start a new chapter. So that chapter for that year that we had closed. So it's time to turn the page and focus on a new chapter. Right? And reevaluate, see what I'm gonna be doing better that I did not do. But whatever happened in the past year, it's already done. And it's like moving forward, we already know the purpose that the Most High had for us. We got to evaluate whether we are living up to what our purpose is and what we're supposed to be doing moving forward. Which is become better at managing that the Most High give us, right, to take care of, to preserve. As when Yahushua come in, we can give a good report of what we have done with the time that we've been given. So that's one of the things that we gotta focus on and keep moving forward, accomplishing those things, because we are here on an assignment. So at a point in time, we're gonna be asked, okay, what have you done? I give you 50 years. I give you 60 years. I give you 70 years. So now, what have you done? So when each year passed, did you evaluate, or you just see it as just a year, that just a day that just passed and not paying attention, moving forward, close the chapter and keep moving forward for the better? So those are the things that we gotta really think about as the world is moving south, but we're moving towards the future. Right? Knowing that we have a better future. As the world is right now, people feel like it's going to an end. Yet the end of this world is the beginning of a new world. And that world is looking bright for us, but whereas the whole world feel like everything is going down. Right? So those are the things that we got to keep focus on as we see everything that's happening. Some people feel the way they feel like everything is like what they work for, the time that they spend. It seems like everything's gonna go down the drain, right? But to us, we should have a different outlook on it. Well, then that's what we've always been looking for.
Right. Anything that we've built here in righteousness, even if it's something physical, right? Definitely want to build up spiritual things in ourselves and others, right? As far as spiritual riches. even physical things we may have, we know it's just going to be carried over into the kingdom anyway and multiply.
Right.
And to believe that.
Right. So it's a mixture of all of it all. It's spiritual and then physical. Everything that we have to use it as an example, as if we're gonna give account to the Most High or to the Yahushua for anything we have, whether spiritual first and then physical. Whether it's the school, the Most High gonna ask us, okay, how did you manage the school? How did we do this? And most importantly, did we do proper succession? Meaning, when we teach, do we teach to bring the next man up, to become even better than us, to do better than me? I have done better than you have done. So that should be the key, right? At some point in time, we may not be here, but do we groom people to take the space? We don't want to be like Joshua. We don't want to be like Joshua. He did good. He teach the people, but after he passed, there was no one to lead the nation. No proper succession. He didn't pass the baton. Moses taught him. Moses, before he left, Moses groomed him. So when he took the baton, but he did not do the same thing that Moses did. To the point where Judah said, "So now Joshua's not here. So who's gonna take us? Who's gonna take the lead?" So we gotta focus on that. And again, the best way is not even about a physical school, right? It's not even about the physical school, because Yahushua himself, if we think about it, in his lifetime did not build one building, but he built the building that we have today, that we can read the scripture. Matthew, Peter, Paul. Those are the best buildings that he ever built. So if we're not doing that, we got to do more.
Talking about rebirth, right? And examples of, like you mentioned, reflecting on the year before and what to do in the year ahead. Another event we can look to, the flood itself. It tells you that when Noah was 600 years old, that's when the flood happened. It was about the second month when it says when the rain started coming down. Then it tells you after 40 days and 40 nights how long the earth was flooded. And then it also tells you when the flood started to reside, right? They sent out the raven, they sent out the dove, right? To bring back, a branch, which signified once it came back with a branch, you knew, okay, now we can actually come off the ark. The waters have come down enough where we can abide in the earth again. But they were on a boat for a little under a year. But that time when the water resided, it was around this time too. Let's see it. Let's read it. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll just read the top part of Genesis chapter 8. Genesis chapter 8 and verse 1. You can go back to 7 too, but I'll just start in 8 and 1. It says, "In power remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged." Then it says in verse 2, "The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained." It says, and the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. The ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat, which is what we call Turkey today. So that happened in the 7th month, but as you read on, it says, "And waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen." Then it says in verse 6, "It came to pass at the end of the 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. He sent forth a raven which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see the waters were abated from off the face of the ground." The dove found no rest for the foot of her foot, for the sole of her foot. She returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and again sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off, showing that there was an olive tree somewhere that had grown up. She picked a leaf off of. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. Right? So the dove was able to reside in the earth at this point. But now here's the key. It says in 13 and 14, I'll stop at 14. And it came to pass in the 601st year. So remember, this started happening when Noah was 600. So him and his sons and all their wives, a year older through this whole ordeal. It says, and it came to pass in the 601st year, it says, in the first month, the first day of the time that we're in right now, it says, the waters were dry from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And then it says in 14, in the second month, in the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth fully dry. Right? So this was a keynote time, a key time, this first day of the first month of the year, as far as the earth going through its drying period. It was fully completed, second month and 27th day.
Right. So that marks the close of a chapter of the storm. Now it's time for a new beginning. It's time for a new beginning. One chapter closed. Now it's time to start a new chapter. So as today, we have today as well. It's time to start a new chapter. How are we gonna move forward from here?
Right. That's why I'm reading this. Right. Come. So yeah, those are key examples of things that happen in the beginning of the year. But remember, we keep it in a spirit of righteousness. It's not like what we see in the world, right? When people keep their so-called New Year's, right? Where there's a lot of revelry and dancing and fornication. Yeah, we keep it a solemn feast, but it's not something to just act out of sorts, right? And carry on. And how interesting is it now that Christ prophesied, like we see now, earth being taken storm by the coronavirus, right? That every news outlet and every personality on radio and TV, on internet is talking about. It's a hot button topic. But I like the text that you had sent out, going into what Christ actually said on the Mount of Olives, right? 3 different Gospels. He told us that we don't be dismayed when we see these things happen, and to know that the end is not yet. Right? If anything, take note of it, right? Listen to what the powers that be say, right? But at the same time, take heed to what the Most High said ultimately, because remember, that should always be the drawing line. While we hear what the things that they have to say as far as threat, and we do proper research. I know Khan Samat went into a nice class Friday night going into fear, how to deal with fear due to ignorance, right? Even the scriptures tell us, as he read that night, fear is nothing but what? The betraying of the succors which reason offereth, right? And I know in the class before that, we went into some similar questions around, what to look up when it comes to any virus, so that at least you have an understanding of, okay, what it is, how to deal with it first on a physical level, and then when those things fail, of course, you lean upon the Most High. Just as we've done throughout the history. I see your hand. Just as we've done throughout the history, right? Whether it was, something like this, or if it was, a physical enemy, like a nation, right? That we deal with them according to what? Reason, right? Asking the right questions to get the most information, right? And then from there, making our decision as far as how to carry on going forward, and trust that the Most High be with you in the decision after you've applied His wisdom. So we always talk about what asking the 5 W's, right? The who, what, where, when, and why, how many, how much. We went into that as far as it pertains to coronavirus in particular. Like I said, you could apply it to any plague that comes directly from the Most comes from the Most High through man and things that He's come up with. The scriptures deal with that too. The Most High tells He makes the waster to destroy. He's the one that made the smith to blow up the coals in the fire to make it forth the instrument for His work. Right? So we find those things out so we can navigate wisely with understanding. Right? And that way we can hear the news, but at the same time read between the lines and understand, okay, what's truly a threat and what is just, hype. Because what we'll find is that when we ask those questions, right, like, who does the virus affect, right? What does it, what are its symptoms, right? Where did it begin from, right? And where has it been? And when has it began to spread, right? So we get an idea of how fast it travels. When it comes to the why and how, take those things in as far as what the official sources say, but kind of read between the lines and say, okay, we know when it comes to those questions, that's where deception can sometimes come in or misdirection can come in. And then this applies to the Most High's prophecy to those things where the news might fall short. And then, asking how many, and how much. It's more just going into logistics as far as how many people have been affected, how much will it be cost, how costly will it be to businesses. This is kind of looking at things from a current standpoint and a projected standpoint of what are some of the long-term effects that this type of plague is going to have, so that we can have that knowledge, have that understanding, and then navigate accordingly. But we'll continue to touch on these things in the classes going forward, whether we do it in person, which might be limited depending on where you live, what state you're in. We've always had these mediums we can use since we're the information age, right? Knowledge shall be increased, like the live stream, like the phone, like the teleconference, to keep that connection going, to keep the classes going, to make sure that we remain edified and that we always have the Most High's prophecy as our baseline guide to sort through a lot of things we may see and hear from man, to be able to sort through and be able to draw out the truth from what He's saying from the lie.
Right. So, in the light of all these things that's happening, the locomotion, that's where it always comes down to the laws of the Most High. The laws of the Most High makes everything simple and predictable. Life will become predictable based on the Most High's principles, based on the Most High's laws. That's why even everything we do, the Most High said, do it in moderation. We already see everything that's out there, a lot of news that's out there. You already know if we listen to every single one of them, and it's not every single news and look for here, look there, look here, look there. That's not do it in moderation. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up getting confused because one this here, before we know it, a whole day done passed and then it's spent on watching news. And the Most High said, do everything in moderation. Just do it, just so that you can get yourself informed. Because to begin with, the Most High don't like medium. The medium is the media. The Most High said the only one between Him and us is Yahushua. That's the only medium. So we got to go back to the scripture when we see things happening. What did the Most High say? What did Christ say? Right? Okay, I listen to this. Yeah, I listen to this. Okay, fine. Then I'm going to move forward. Then if we allow every single little thing to get into our head, we become confused and we start to deviate from what Yahushua says. The only mediation between God and man is Yahusha. Anything else, everything could be happening around you, but if you keep that in mind, the only mediation between God and man is Yahusha. I listen this because I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna go to shoot, I'm listening, but I'm not gonna make this my focal point for the whole day. I'm not gonna let this become the center of my life. Right? And also, Moses says this in Jeremiah 32:19. The Most High's plan for us is already done. It's already planned. It's already planned out. So why should we worry and focus on these people where the Most High's already have everything planned out? And so those are the things that we gotta keep in mind, keep focused. And plus, even we in time of war. We're not in times of physical warfare, like we have a weapon, we're gonna fight the enemy, but we're in a time of war. Right? So what does the Most High said when we're in time of war? You read Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. If you're scared to get out the street, just stay home. If you fear, just stay home. It's just like when you're gonna go to war. If you fear, just stay back. If you do this, the line is already drawn and make life simple, right? If we listen and read the Most High and put things in perspective. But when we fell back and let these people drive us as the medium, then we become confused. We become confused and we fell back on them. So now they end up like giving you their rules, how things should be done, their perception on life, right? What's gonna happen in the future, what they're gonna be doing. So now we're focusing on that instead of what the Most High said was gonna happen anyway, right? Just stay focused.
Right. That's what. Oh, I'm not sure if you were finished.
Right. I mean that's what I had to say on this, because if we don't be mindful, and anyone can be victim of it, because especially when it's mainstream. Anyone can be. I can be victim of it. I gotta watch myself.
Right. So that's what I was saying earlier about reconciling the things that you see out here. That man is saying that he'll have his experts that have all this credibility behind them. Right? They went to this Ivy League school and this, that, and the third. But now, when you hear the things that they bring out, definitely hear what they have to say. Hear the reason that they bring out. Always weigh it in the balance when it comes to the prophecy of the Most High, right? And like you said, start off basic with certain things that are easy to deal with when it comes to just the basic commandments of what to do, what not to do. And for the things that may be a little more complicated, may not be as clear as far as, okay, I might have options and both of them might be good, but what's the best option? Right, as far as how I should live, how I should navigate going forward. When the milk of the scriptures may not answer the question, that's where the fruit of the spirit. That's where the different parables of Christ come in, right? Where different parables of Christ and other parables you find in scriptures, they'll go a step deeper, right? They'll go into some of the deeper questioning to where they'll give you those tools that you need to weigh certain things in the balance as far as, okay, what's most important to you? Like we read earlier about all things not being profitable for all men. Every soul having delight in everything, right? For one person, one thing may be more important than the other, given your circumstance, right? Given your location, right? Given your health or your current state, how much you have, how much you don't have. Right, as far as resources, right? Those things you want to weigh in the balance and then apply that to your need going forward as far as the best choice to make when dealing with a plague like this or other things that may come. But once again, the scriptures arm us with these things, with the milk as well as the meat, with the law, statutes, commandments, as well as the dark parables and dark sayings, which go into even how to navigate something like this.
Jeremiah 32, verse 18 to 19. And it reads, Thou showest loving kindness unto thousands, and recompenseth the iniquity of the fathers into the bosom of their children after them. The great, the mighty God, the Lord of hosts, is his name. Verse 19. Great in counsel, and mighty in work, for thine eyes are upon all the ways of the sons of men, to give every one according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his doings. So that's the power of the Most High. So we would think that the Most High don't have control of coronavirus. You already see all these things happening. You already know all these things. So if we are his children, he has his eyes on us, why should we worry?
Take knowledge. We're not saying don't take knowledge of how it spreads. Get all the knowledge that you need to know the proper precautions as far as, like we said, who does it affect the most? What are the symptoms? Where did it start? When did it start? We know the ultimate why these things start. It's all according to the Most High's will. How is it spread? Is it spread through the air? Is it spread through blood? Right. So take the time to learn those things, right? Because everything we can think of, any plague is you're gonna have those questions you want to ask of them. But now, from there, you use that knowledge now to shut down that fear, because now you have an awareness of how it works, and then you already have that awareness of the Most High and how the Most High with you as you figure those things out, and as you try to do what you need to do. He'll what? He'll put that hedge about you and protect you as you move, and navigate those different things, whatever it may be. In this case, this disease outbreak. So it's both together. Let me just read this on that. This is
everything comes together. Fine.
This is Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 37. Because sometimes it's not always clear as far as, okay, do I just figure this out on my own, or do I just put it all in God's hands? There's a way of doing both together. Right? That's the excellency of wisdom. But it's not always necessarily clear. It's not always necessarily clear in our mind if it hasn't been shown to us. That both are essential when you apply one and when the other comes in. This is Ecclesiasticus 37. Also, I know I read some verses from here earlier about all things not being profitable. But this is Ecclesiasticus 37, 13. And I'll stop at 16. So Ecclesiasticus chapter 37 and verse 13, it reads, And let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. Now the context here, of course, is you what? You applying righteous counsel. It's not just saying do something, on your own according to your own way. The scriptures also always talk about that as far as the heart being deceitful. What this is showing is that the Most High trusts us with his guidance, his commandments, with his parables, right? To make a reasonable decision. He's trusting us with that. It's just a matter of searching the scriptures, knowing what the scriptures to apply and what questions to ask to make that decision. He says, there's no man more faithful unto thee than it. It says in 14, for a man's mind is sometime wont or able to tell them more than 7 watchmen that can sit above in an high tower. Right? So you can work a lot of things out with your mind. And that might even be a test too, that the Most High might have you go through as far as, something that may hinder you from being able to, think clearly it's part of like one of the afflictions.
Right.
But once again, it's still something that, no matter how much he may send something your way, or he may even have you have a physical illness, make it difficult for you to do these things. If you always go back to the scriptures and seek them out and apply them to the best of your ability and seek those things out as needed, he'll pave that way. He'll find that way for you. And it'll be a joint decision. It'll be you deciding, but it'll be with his guidance. And then win, lose, or draw, you can, have that confidence and faith that you did your due diligence. That it wasn't just, taking a shot in the dark and hoping for the best. That's why it says in verse 15, and above all this, pray to the Most High that he will direct thy way in truth. So as you are looking at these scriptures, looking at these parables, trying to see what fits, trying to see what applies, asking the right questions, making the like the law says, a diligent search. Ask the Most High guide you in that process, because you want him to see that you have a righteous intent. You want to go the right way for yourself and for those you care about. Then it says in 16, let reason go before every enterprise and counsel before every action. Just reiterating what we read before, as far as this is more so what the verses above are dealing with the how to go about doing it in righteousness. Get a verse.
Psalm 131 and 1.
Oh, what was that verse in Jeremiah?
3:32.
Jeremiah 32, is it 17 to 19? Is that what it was?
Yeah, 32, 18 to 19.
18, 19, okay.
Psalm 131. Right, Psalm 131 and 1 reads, it said, Lord, mine heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty, neither do I exercise myself in matters or in things too high for me. Because we got to understand that life is a mystery. There are questions we will never be able to answer until Yahweh comes. Right? So it says, look, and that's why David was given more, because he knows his limit. Sometimes not limit. He knows his limit, and he knows what he's capable of and what he's not able to do, and humble himself so the Most High can look more in him. Right? It says, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty, neither do I exercise myself in great matter or in things too high for lofty. He's not looking down on people who don't know more than he does. Right? Or it says in verse 2, should I behave and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as weaned child. Let Israel hope in the Lord from henceforth and forever. We got to always hope in the Most High forever. We got to hope for the Most High. Look forward for the Most High. When things seems to be hard, we can't figure it out. know that the Most High got us, because we will not be able to figure everything out. We can ask all the questions we want, we will not be answering those things out. So we got to make sure that we understand that and draw that limit and know where our limit begins and where it ends. And all things must be done, especially us, got to be in the spirit. Because when we look at out there in the world, those people that's doing all these things, they trust in their spiritual, in their intellect. They doing a lot of things, right? And they doing a lot of things. And sometimes you may get confused and say, man, they're not worshiping the Most High. So how come they doing this? Yeah, the mind you can do things. But the key is for us, do what we got to do, observe the Most High's law, practice the thing that the Most High tells us to practice. Then He will direct us always in the right direction. That's a guarantee.
Which is beautiful because it goes right with Ecclesiastes 37, what that was saying as far as praying to the Most High, He direct your way in truth.
Right.
Because as you make your diligent search, like you said, sometimes you may not find everything, but whatever is needful, the Most High will reveal to you, show you. And the things that are beyond you, He even said in the law itself, for the matter that's too great for me, bring it unto me and I will hear it, right? Deuteronomy 1. Let me read it real quick. Glad you said that. Yeah, here we go. More so dealing with the last precept of this, but Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 17, it says, ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. So just that's not so much what we want, but it's important to know still, as far as just taking someone at face value because, they have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of fame, or they have a certain, the Greeks say ethos, as far as the world's concerned. They went to this school or this college, right? We like the way that they sing or perform. We like that they're very talented, right? Like a celebrity. It says, do not respect persons in judgment. You share the small as well as the great. If right was done, they should be judged for the right that they did. If wrong is done, they should be judged for the wrong that they did. Right? There should be no respect of persons. We see this being broken down every day in the West, in the world at large, right? When it comes to politicians, CEOs, celebrities, right? People that people in the world focus on. They'll give them passes all the time for things that they clearly have said and done that are wrong. But let me get to why I really first towards the end. It says, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. You should not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God. So it's the Most High's judgment. We're just being used as vessels to execute it. It says, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So there it is right there, built unto the Lord. So if you had no idea what David was talking about in this psalm, you should have, because it says it right here.
Right.
Christ went to tell you, go and learn what that meaneth. Right? Because you should have already read it.
Especially in times of evil like this, suddenly some people become prophets. People start to invent things. Right? Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we got to be careful of. You got TBN, you got all these people coming up with stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? They can tell you, why this happened, why that happened. Ultimately, we know where we heading. We know all these things had to happen, right? But we know we heading to Jerusalem. We know at the end of it, that's where we heading. That's the end. We're gonna get to the kingdom. But as far as the specifics, you got people that's gonna invent things, that's gonna tell you this, that's gonna tell you that.
Yeah, when folks try to capitalize on your own fear, which is your lack of understanding. Like you've probably seen this thing on social media. The lady, some other lady filmed her. She went to a dollar store and bought up all the toilet paper. Stacked it. Her and her husband stacked it on their truck. She's like, I can't believe this lady cursed me out. I was just, asking her a question. Just asked her, what she was doing. And she was so rude. This, that, and the third. I said, she could barely fit it all in the back of the truck. She had to get another minivan just to get the rest of the toilet paper. So, yeah, people are carnally trying to take advantage of fear and ignorance. And we don't know what she's going to do with toilet paper, but some think, oh, okay, she's going to sell it for, exorbitant
Right. I mean,
versus how much it would go for.
you know how people are. It's like in times like this, the survival mindset kicks in. They'll do anything. The survival mindset says, I gotta get all the toilet paper. It's about me. Even if I get it, but you don't get anything, I gotta survive. And the toilet paper is one of the things they'll pick up it, but toilet paper just happen, what they pick up. But that's survival mentality.
And for those of us that are in the truth, now we may see this and say, okay, maybe certain investments we can make for this life can be helpful in that regard as far as seeing where the trends lead. But ultimately, just remember that if you don't have the thing that matters most, which is your soul, all those hustles and those schemes, right, they're going to fail as people to put their trust totally in that, as opposed to the Most High and His will. We haven't read this at least haven't heard us read this prophecy in a while. But I just want to read this just as a reminder for all of us. This is in Ezekiel. Once again, it's not to say that we still don't deal wise with what we had, because we just don't know how long it'll be till Christ comes back. We could be here another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, even longer than that. We don't know. So we still want to operate like we were talking about. We were talking about earlier, as far as to do with the things you have physically, but in righteousness, so that your spiritual and your spiritual and your physical riches will be translated into the kingdom. Just realize the importance of your spiritual riches first and foremost. Hence the fruits of the Spirit, right? With the commandments, because why? This is what we have to look forward to in the end. We're not there yet. But when it really gets bad, or as they say in the world, they call it the SHTF, when the hits the fan. Right? That's when we getting into, Revelations, at the merchants looking afar, crying, saying, oh, alas, all our merchandise, We haven't gotten to that point, where America's literally on flames. It's already spiritually on flames. Check this out. This is, let me see. Yeah, here we go. Ezekiel chapter 7, 16 to 19. Ezekiel chapter 7, verses 16 to 19. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 16, it reads, but they that escape of them shall escape, and shall be on the mountains like doves of the valleys, all of them mourning, every one for his iniquity. All hands and all knees shall be weak as water. Right? So going to them trying to flee from the destruction when it happens, right? And even though they may have gotten away, they still are afraid because they just don't know what's going to happen next. It says, they shall also gird themselves with sackcloth, and horror shall cover them, and shame shall be upon all faces, and baldness upon all their heads, right? Just signifying shame, right? And check out 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Your silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is a stumbling block of their iniquity. So you're gonna have people like that, right? That physically, they may have a little bunker or underground shelter, or connections to the military, connections to certain, wealthy people, right? But now, even for all the non-perishables they may have kept, how are they going to deal with the fire coming from Christ and the angels? How are they going to be dealing with the creator of heaven and earth and his own army? There's no way you can hide from them, protect yourself from them. Even with all the technology that they've revealed, technology they're trying to keep hidden, right, until that day. try to fight with the Most High and to fight with Christ and the angels, right? It's not going to mean anything in that time. So when we get here, that's when we know what will be in the midst of the end. But as the scriptures say, continue to watch and pray. As the scriptures that Khan and I have been bringing out through the Spirit, continue to read and apply those things, right? Never be caught off guard. Right? But when he comes, it won't be an issue, because when he comes back, you'll be ready. Because, like I said, false Christ coming, right? People trying to come up with things, right? To get a following, right? To go after them. To say, oh, let me trust in this person because he or she seems to be ahead of the curve. But who in the world is going to see something like this coming? Right? Or they may see it coming, but they may not know what it'll lead to. They may think, okay, after the smoke clears, whoever is still alive and remains, they'll be the ones to, rebuild with their hands, right? The next government, right, to come, not realizing that, no, after that war, the government that comes after that, it's a government that should never fall again, right? That'll last forever. And the so-called Christians that are looking for it got their own counterfeit version of the kingdom, a rude awakening when they hear that trump, see Christ and the angels in the sky. It's going to be totally what they didn't expect. It's going to come in a way that they couldn't have foreseen because of the deception they've been taught. But let's just be thankful that we still have eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to understand this truth. And let's continue to make this truth our foundation for how we speak and how we make decisions.
And also keep that in mind that we are not our own, we are the Most High. Right? And our decision and behavior, right, protects or destroy the reputation of the Most High.
That was Jeremiah. I'm not sure if you heard it on the chat. Jeremiah 32:18-19. Jeremiah 32:18-19. Yeah, so but we'll continue to be in communication. Like I said, if it's not in person, by internet, by phone. As far as the latest and greatest, as far as different moves to make, different ways to navigate, applying the Most High's righteousness in the most effective way, given your situation. But all in all, keeping the scriptures as the foundation for all of us. Right? Let's continue to do that. Let's continue to meditate. Let's continue to watch and pray. Let's continue to, when it comes to the parable of the sower and the seed, right? That great parable Christ gave us. Let's continue to try to be that seed that fell on the good ground, that bear forth much fruit, some 100-fold, some 30-fold, some 60-fold. Let's try to be that kind of fruit, right? Regardless of what happens in this world. Because like the scriptures say, not heaven or earth or anything, or anyone can keep us from the love of the Most High in Christ. Not even a virus. Because remember, this is part of too. This is part of the curse also. Reading Deuteronomy 28. What does it say? It says the Most High smites with plagues. It also says what? Every plague that's not written of in this book will the Most High smite you with. Right? Just let you know, even back then when Moses first wrote it, there's going to be certain plagues that aren't even mentioned in the scriptures that the Most High already knew in the future he was going to bring upon the earth. And I like you mentioned that earlier too. You said, don't just stay focused on this. There's other prophecies that are happening right now besides pestilences. You still got earthquakes going on, right? I think they just had one, I think about 2 or 3 weeks back in an odd place. That doesn't come to me at the moment. But you got that going on. Obviously, in the scriptures, you still got forest fires going on, right? All these things are still taking place. So keep an eye out for all the different prophecies that are taking place, because it's all part of the Most High's will, right? Even though they may have the media constantly talking about one thing, always keep an eye on what the Most High is doing, because that's where misdirection can come in, right? They can have you like someone doing a trick on stage. They have everybody look one way, where the trick is happening right to the left side, right to the right side, right underneath the stage. If you just shift your perspective, you might see something no one else does. Before I read this, you can read that.
All right. And I'll say this one last thing I'll say on this. And be based on what we are experiencing, know that and see that nothing is as permanent as change. And change is constant based on what we're seeing. Nothing's gonna remain normal. So this is drastic what's happening right now. But keep in mind, like Kahan bring out, all the change are happening. The world is changing, things are changing, everything is changing around us. But don't take just this right here because it's dramatic, right? It's so big that we lose focus on other things. Right? And also try not to let your faith go off. Right? And if it happened, just beg the Most High that you get back on track. Right? Because you don't want to make a permanent decision, to lose your faith based on things that are constantly changing, based on temporary things that are constantly changing. Just like Judas did, right? He made a permanent decision to take his life, right? He could have. I mean, that's the way it meant to happen. But it's a lesson for us. No matter how bad we think we did, if we sincerely repent, the Most High will always be ready to accept us, right? But making a permanent decision to a temporary problem, like for example, suicide, that's you know what I mean.
Con. Excellent point. Con, so just as an encouragement before we close out, this is Romans chapter 8. I'm sure we'll be revisiting this and other congregations out there will be revisiting this verse leading up to the time when Christ comes back. This is Romans chapter 8, 35, and I'll read down to 39. So Romans chapter 8 and 35, and it reads, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or peril, or sword?" Remember, even in the Old Testament, when you see the Most High sword being referenced, it can refer to the wicked. It also can be referred to what? The pestilence that he brings, or like mildew can bring upon like crops. Because that's what I was thinking of before. In the curses, it talks about the Most High bringing locusts. Now, that's not being talked about a lot, but over there in East Africa, those countries over there like Ethiopia, Djibouti, right? Somalia, places over there, it said that the whole food supplies were shook up. And they said that the locusts, they're multiplying at like an exponential number. And they're clearing out so many crops that are grown out there that not only supply those African countries, but that they export to other countries too. So definitely keep an eye out for that too. I'm not sure if the locusts have stopped, but they did some serious damage. And even I don't know if it was the World Health, it was one of those UN organizations that come out and give a big speech about it. So, nakedness or peril or sword, verse 36. "As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long, we are counted as sheep for the slaughter." Then it says, "Nay, but in all things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For for us to be able to endure these things for righteousness' sake, right? Not just for a corruptible crown or something carnal that the people of the world hold up people in praise for. We're considered more than them, right? From their great, CEOs to their great conquerors of different fields, different industries, right? We're considered more than them. Those of us that stay the straight and narrow path. Those that are few, but I should say, proud doers of the law, but humble when it comes to the spirit. It says in verse 38, "For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers," right? "Nor things present, nor things to come," right? So things happening now, things that are around the corner, principalities or powers, because we know the people who have rule over this earth. Ephesians tells us what? Are we fighting against, not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of the darkness of this world, right? Against spiritual wickedness in high places. So don't forget about those invisible forces behind a lot of these things going on. And you may be dealing with those things directly. Yet, because of the love of Christ, we can overcome. 39, "Nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature, anything created by the Most High, shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Mashiach Yahushua, or our Lord." So it's written, we have to know it and believe it. And now's the time to refresh on this and scriptures like it as the road gets a bit bumpy. So, we just started 2020. We don't know how much time we have, but we know this decade is going to be a pretty interesting one. This is our guide. We'll be just fine. So we'll say Shar Chadash wa Ra'ash Hashanah, first of the year, head of the year, happy new moon. We'll definitely be in touch for the classes coming up as well. The Holy Day coming up, the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread, as far as what we're going to do for that, given the so many things are changing in the world, as you said, right? Change being a part of this world as Esau goes out, right? Things constantly changing. We know things will constantly change in the kingdom going forward too, but for the better. It'll be a constant growth, right? As opposed to now where things are falling apart. Right.
Constantly this world is going down.
Right. But we'll keep everybody posted as far as next moves we're going to make and how we'll keep it, where we'll keep it, different mediums that we'll use, right, to transfer, to edify. But pretty much it'll be what we've, been using. It's always been our fallback when we can't come together, physically anyway. So the law continues. Another day will continue. The Most High's will always continue, right? His Son is always a day closer to coming back, which we all look forward to. So with that, we'll do the closing prayers as well as bless the food. So, Shalom Yasharal. Barakathe Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, Asheram, from the now, Paria, Gapim, the water Aman. La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, Af, Yasharal. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. And Magua, Panuai Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Babakushai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aithad, Yemyan, Aithad, Shalak, Ma'aka Allah, Uha Allahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shemar Io, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wa Chazayak, Banya, Yasha Allah, Wa Shalak, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'if, Rabiam, Bayanad, Rabiam, Sabalanwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Haganah, Rochanaya, Wasalak, Kau, Katayanawa, La Akim, Wa Akiwa, Sha'ala, Tamyad, Waiwalam, Ba'asham, Yahawashah, Thawada, Aman. English translation, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers, sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four corners prayer. Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Sha'ala, Wabathia Saparium, Shema, Yasharala, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books. Then we said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Now we'll do the blessing for the food. Yahweh, Garawo, Basham, Marawanya, Yahweh Shai, Babakushai, Barak, Makal, Yanawa, Shatayawa, Yanawa, Yayan, Yanawa, Lacham, Yanawa, Shakara, Yanawa, Zachag, Shal, Hakadash, Waraash, Hashanah, Basham, Yahawashah, Thawada, Aman. Alright, so that we say Shakadash, Wa Raash Hashanah, Wa Laila Tuwa. Shalom, Israel. Have a blessed day.